So there must be some kind of, I'm quite convinced there's some kind of universal consciousness that we all experience, but we don't really quite know exactly how to tap into it on a conscious level, but it happens without us ever even being aware of it.
Oh, I'm going to go find your reading on that. Yeah. Sounds very interesting. Excuse me. What is one thing, when putting these questions together, you try not to make them too stock or too rote, but what is one thing that you are passionate about that no one ever asked you and you really wish during something like this they would? And I just put him on the spot of...
Chances are if you ask me a question about that very thing that I'm most secretive about, I'd say it's none of your business.
Secretive in that. I didn't mean passionate that way, just passionate.
No, I'm kidding. I don't know. Golly, I have answered so many questions in my lifetime. I don't know. I'd have to give some thought to that. I don't know. Something that I would like to be asked about?
Something you would like to be asked about.
Oh, wow. Look, you're doing a great job. I think you really are, and I'm very impressed that you've done your homework, and we've had a wonderful conversation. I think it's great.
What are you have you been working with young artists or young photographers?
No.
Not yet.
No, I have not. I don't consider myself enough of a photographic expert to teach photography. If I were to teach photography, it would have to be about subject matter rather, because there are so many people who know so much more about cameras and digital processing than I do. For many years, I did all my own printing in the darkroom using the chemicals. So any print up to 11 by 14 black and white, I made it myself. Up to even 16 by 20, I made it myself in my own darkroom. I started working with the chemicals when I was about 13 or 14 years old. Now moving into the digital work, the Secret Sales project is a digital project. And we used a very sophisticated camera because we're actually making some life-size prints of these people. But I couldn't teach it. I couldn't teach the digital concepts or the techniques. I know enough how to use the equipment to get what I need done. Beyond that, there are people who are far beyond me in terms of Photoshop and so forth that can do things that I don't know how to do. If I needed that kind of work done, just like a director hires George Lucas or somebody to do the special effects, I would have to hire somebody to do it. So I could probably teach the philosophy of photography. But that's about all. Technically, I'm very limited.
Well, and you have a very artistic background. You've written.
Yeah.
You've sung. I did my homework. Where was that? Did you always have that as a child, that you were always that artistic and wanting to let that side of yourself out?
Doors have opened for me and I have walked through them. When I was a kid, somebody asked me to sing a song and I did, and I found myself on stage as Hansel in a production of Hansel and Gretel. And then I was hired to sing in choirs as I was a kid because I could carry a tune and I had a reasonably decent voice. When I left Mission Impossible in 1971, I was hired to act in a Western in Spain with Yul Brynner, a picture called Catlow, and I was playing the heavy, and I was, oh, you saw it. And if you saw Catlow, you saw my naked butt. I had a fight with Yul Brynner where I'd just come out of a bathtub. Anyway, no, we'll get off of that. We don't have to go there. So I was growing a beard, and on my way to Spain, I stopped in New York to meet an agent who was going to represent me for theater work, and I had never met him before. I walked in his office with this beard, and I'd been in his office 5 minutes. He said, "How would you like to play Tevye in Fiddler on the Roof?" He had no idea if I had any talent for it, but I had the beard. I said, sure, I'd like to do that. And sure enough, I went to Spain and did the movie. When I came back, I did an 8-week tour as Tevye in the musical, in Fiddler on the Roof. In fact, I played it here also at the Peachtree Playhouse, and I did it here a couple times, I think, for a week at a time. And that led to other work in musicals. I've done The King and I, and My Fair Lady, and did Fagin and Oliver, and several musicals. And I've enjoyed it, and I've recorded some albums, and that happened by accident. When we were making the Star Trek series, a gentleman from the studio came to me and said, we've just made a contract with somebody in New York to produce an album of Star Trek music, and your picture's going to be on the cover as Spock. Very nice. And he said, would you like to do something on the album? And I said, well, I would think so. If my picture's on the cover, I should be in this album. So, in a very short notice, I flew to New York and spent a weekend recording some material. And that was the beginning of a recording thing. And the album sold very well, so I ended up doing 6 albums. And then, about a year later, the same producer contacted me and said, you know, an interesting idea just popped up. Somebody wrote a song and gave it to me that you might be interested in doing. It's about the hobbits and the I
was getting there.
I bet you do. Dr. Demento? Yeah. That crazy guy? Yeah. In Middle-earth in the land of Shire. Yeah, I know this song. Yeah, it was fun. It's a fun little song, and we were there 30 years ahead of the whole Hobbit story. 30 years ahead of its time. Eventually, they made the Lord of the Rings and the trilogy. But we did that song in I think in the mid-70s, 72, 73, something like that.
Now, the Star Trek album